Well, I'll start out with the first poem that when you read that, I started out about 2.5 years ago. So this is the first poem I started with. Shades of crimson be, backdrop to eternity, strands of blue illuminating possibility, storm to come, or peaceful reverie, jingling in the breeze, fluttering on the branch, clusters of white petals dance. Forefront in the landscape, color bright to be, completes the scenic symmetry. Can you hear me okay? Is that all?
Be a little louder.
A little louder? Okay. So we have lived in West Seattle quite a number of years, and we consider it a really great place to live. And this poem is called West Seattle. It's a walk at Alki in the heat of the summer as you enjoy the people at play, watch volleyball or the paddleboard action, observe a child with a pail of sand begin to create. It's a stroll at Lincoln Park, relief with the cool breeze, so welcome, so soothing. If you're lucky, you might see an eagle soar, enjoy the resident geese, or watch the woman in plaid feed the crows. It's the sound in the fall of an early morning foghorn, or sea lions in the harbor as they rest on a dock near Jack Block Park, barking their orders. It's opening the front door to pick up the paper, tossed on the porch and caught in the rails, and feeling the fog roll by, wispy and silent. It's this time, pre-dawn, peaceful, when you breathe in the fresh sea air and exhale your good fortune. Weeding. I was weeding my garden on a bright May morning. In my search under the bush, I found snails to dispatch. I plucked them and tossed them on the ground, methodically crushing their shells, aware of the crunching sound. I thought of a conversation overheard in the park. A father spoke to his young son. Son, he said, why did you crush that bug? It wasn't harming anything. You know how I feel about killing. When I was younger, my mom and dad used to like to, there's two things they liked to do, was square dance and they like going to the movies. And this was just kind of watching mom get ready to go. Lipstick. She twists the lipstick open and presses the almost empty tube to apply the color red. Her finger pats softly as she glances in the mirror and gently taps the contour of her lips. She smooths the color quickly and dabs it on her cheek. A second look in the mirror, her makeup is complete. A cotton dress, a movie, a flared skirt, a square dance, a way to ease life's burdens, not often, too brief the time. Grief. It's an unbearable cold that numbs you to the core, the winter that freezes you body and soul, that darting, searing pain that won't go away, only to cover, all-consuming into a deep endless. Stunned at first, unable to remember a smile, a giggle, a laugh, a cry, the cold, dark water of thought envelopes, without a way to retrieve, only a deep and lasting sorrow. I have trouble sometimes trying new things, taking chances, and this poem is called Inside Looking Out, and to me it's about taking chances. Wind bellows down the chimney, squeezes through a pipe, making a flutist sound, lifts the cover off the barbecue and knocks the garbage can down the alley. It rattles windows of the old farmhouse, no longer a farm, on a knoll no longer. I'm inside looking out. A raven writes a draft, a second, watchful, hesitates. Fir branches break, the magnolia shivers and shakes, phantom wind with power to turn me outside. But I'm safe here. If I step outside looking in, will I fly, get tossed about? Can I see, look within, imagine, look beyond? But I'm safe here. If you go I-5 north and get on the I-90 exit, you used to be able to look up. I'm not sure if they're still there, and see a homeless encampment up there. And one day I remember looking at it, seeing it for the first time, and being shocked that people were living up there. It's called a 30-foot drop. There's a homeless camp above the freeway with a 30-foot drop. You see it perched above the concrete canyon wall. It doesn't take much to lift your eyes, no more than a tilt of your head, to look above, where the gray of the concrete meets the gray of the sky, and see an encampment. A glance allows you to see enough to disturb. Another, and you see plastic over canvas again and again. A scrap of wood used for an entry wall, complete with a door. Grocery carts, a stroller, a bicycle, chairs and tables, trash piles here and there. When you pass by again on a rainy day, you see people walking and you wonder, how slippery is the mud today? How much energy does it take to move about, to be careful up there, to be sure-footed and walk with care? Because there's a 30-foot drop. Back in Central California, there's a enchanting beach called Moonstone Beach. And near there's a little town called Cambria, and they sell these agate, they make into jewelry and sell these stones that they find on the beach. And so this is called Moonstone Beach. I walk Moonstone Beach on a crisp fall day. A light breeze pushes the clouds away. The roar of breakers draws me to the sea. Wave trains spilling breakers, rolling, rolling, crest and trough, a timeless, mesmerizing rhythm. Carrier of an unseen energy. I watch the swirling, foamy water surround my ankles, dizzying, tingling, senses energized. The plaintive, piercing call of killdeer draws my eyes upward, looping, darting, graceful, of the plover family, master of the broken wing masquerade. I seek stones sourced from neighboring hills, small agate-like moonstones with a namesake sheen, billowy, ghost-like, bluish-white reflections. I gather them in the palm of my hand, like a child searching for Easter eggs. I will return to Moonstone Beach on a full moon and gather those small, iridescent stones. Hold one between my thumb and forefinger, look through and let the luster begin.
Marjorie, would you say the last line again?
Look through and let the luster begin. Moon face. This is a little bit different take on the moon. Okay, so speed and gravity determine trajectory. That principle was captured by Roman ingenuity. No romantic illusion, no Cupid of courtship, no moonstruck lovers, only calculated precision. Waxing, waning, crescent gibbous, full moon brilliance on the shadow of the new, design repetition, this monthly revolution. No need to summon romantic illusion. My next poem, my friends and I were driving around Vashon, and I saw this old field with a few old apple trees. And to me, this poem is kind of a metaphor for getting older. The apple orchard.
Marjorie, could you just, the endings of your sentences are falling.
Sure. You want me to, maybe I'll get closer to my, is that better now?
It's especially the ends of sentences.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I'll try to get, I have a tendency to drop off. Yeah. Okay, so let me know if this is better. Okay. 3 apple trees in an old orchard in a field overgrown. Gnarly, spindly, broken branches, lichen topped like an ill-fitting toupee. Summers of bounty, seasons of neglect. Only deer pick the fruit, and occasional driver glances. In their silhouettes, beauty, memory and shadows, witness to harvest, roots dug in, struggle to bear. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So this is your. We've all had writer's block, I'm sure, at some point or another. Maybe not, but I have certain many times. So this is kind of a poking a little fun at writers and writer's block. I've been riding high on happiness lately. Oh, light and airy, a puffy cloud lifting me high, a big red balloon reaching for the sky, hugging me until pop, plummeting. Fragments get under my skin, tiny needle-like shards poking in. It's not that I don't know what's going on. 2 nightmarish dreams as a temp, each with me anxiously failing, unable to find my way around or complete the pink invoice for mailing. There must be a Freudian connection. Unfortunately, my dreams offered no clarification, just left me hanging. So I took a break. Then there was a glimmer of hope, with a few amoeba-like ideas growing. And I'm happy to say I've begun a new poem. Thank God the drought is ending. Resurrection Day. Thanksgiving dinner by request. When he was a child, he loved the holiday feast, the turkey roasting, the succulent smell, the bird on the table all golden and brown, mashed potatoes, gravy, stuffing, rolls, cranberries, green beans, and salad untouched. Piling his plate, his mother teased. No need to heap your plate, you can always have seconds. He lies on his cot in the 7x14, year after year, thinking and waiting, waiting and thinking. The cracks in the walls number 1001. Little dark splotches stain the wall. One black book on a shelf, that's all. Now it is here, Resurrection Day. Not the day he'd expected, not the day he'd been planning. He'd been waiting to lie on the cot of atonement, with straps that hug tight in an embrace. His chance for redemption. He'd prepared for this. But Resurrection Day has taken a turn. It's no longer lawful to watch a man burn. The warden brought him the news. He trembled, collapsing on his cot. He looks at the cracks and counts. 1, 2, and swats a fly. My last poem is Icicle Creek, or Still Life. So many times we're rushing around and we don't take the time to just kind of be in the present, to take in what's just right before us. So Icicle Creek or Still Life. Out of the shadows, among shades of green, appears a deer, cameo light, still. Sun-draped leaves, warm, impart an auburn tint. The doe pauses and hoofs gently probe the bossy basin rocks. She lowers her head to drink. Ears twitching, alert, she raises her head. Quiet her stance, familiar. She's been here before. I watch from the other side of the swollen stream as it plummets over worn boulders. Silvery ribbon-like waves weave between the crevices and roar like a freeway at rush hour. Cedar wax wings dive, scoop, and loop. Across the water, the doe lingers near a placid pool. I pass the time too, captivated, content. She moves slowly into the forest. Standing, I hesitate, hoping for her return. Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you. Thank you, Marjorie. Very, very much for starting us off. Lynn Coffin is our
So I'd like to start by reading one of my two poems. This is a really fine anthology. I don't know if you can see it, that Kunun, who was going to read for us tonight, I think a poem, and he edited and published this wonderful anthology. The quality of the work is very high, and I'm going to read a poem called Veils of Water, the 8 decades of her life. And this is done in couplets, 8 couplets, each covering a decade of a woman's life. She caught minnows in her hands. They died trying to breathe through a veil of air. A stranded child waded toward a woman she saw as a veiled moon cut in quarters. She meets a boy who lives in his body. With one wet finger, he punctures her veil. She kills her insides like a sleepwalking actor, shredding red veils into swirled away water. A man comes pushing through veil after veil. He moves, and she turns a tide in her rising. She drapes a black veil over her bed. She cries for weeks and covers the windows. She disrobes in a room under a cross. Her breath is frost, veiling the windows. She stands beside God on the bank of a river and sheds her body like a veil into water. So that's 8 couplets. And then I wanted to read mostly new things. This is a poem I'm very uncertain of. I'm still working on it quite a bit. It's, I don't know, it's one of these things, it's the tone that it keeps shifting for me. But anyway, this is called Johann Friedrich Christian Hammerschmidt. Was born in 1777. His early life was marked by loss. His father collapsed of a heart attack at an open-air market in 1779. His stepfather died of pneumonia while cooking spaghetti in 1780. His mother, to whom he was never close, died in her sleep a short time later. Hammerschmidt wrote his major works, including Elegy in a Field of Ragweed in 1801. He died by shooting himself in the thigh sometime in the 1850s. The library in his hometown of Neckar burned to the ground in 1858. None of his work survives. So maybe our lives are better than that. I don't know. And I always seem to want to do different types of poetry, different tonalities. And so this is one that I posted on Facebook. It was, a slight poem, but it's a takeoff on the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. And it's called The Appalling Rule of the Unrevered. Listen, my children, and you shall hear of a long walk off a short stock pier At the start of the decade in 20 squared, people gaped and people stared to hear bad madness made so clear. Prez said to the press, I have a hunch the Democrats are out to lunch. They want to get me with fake news, but I and my base have different views. The fault is China over the sea. Obama's the cause, the savior, me. I won't let the doctors raise an alarm. It would hurt my image, Mar-a-Lago, my charm. The country is fine, sweet, and farm, and that's spelled P-H-A-R-M. He said in a tweet it was just a hoax, then laughed it off with one of his jokes. As American people began to die, he still thought it best to bluff and lie and fire or muzzle disloyal folks. He tweeted and rambled a crazy jumble, even as markets began to tumble. His lily-white madness was magnified by toadies sucking a teat that had dried. Meanwhile, his base through alley and street continued kissing his claymore feet, till in the vacuum of information, he boasted his hunch to a dying nation, promised a vaccine any day, by April said it would go away. And the measured tread of the coming pandemic showed up the faults already systemic. A cutting of funding to public health, amassing a huge Mar-a-Go-Go wealth. His minions spoke like the deadpan dead. He didn't say what he just said. And meanwhile, people continued to die. He played golf and tweeted and lied a lot, filling his base with baseless rot. Never mind anchoring blurts on a fact, just bleat and tweet and compulsively act, killing the country because he is whacked. The weather is wild, we're set for a flood, but he slings as he sinks in primordial mud. This pandemic is bound to get his goat. God's going to rob him of the vote, and still he will his people tell, I'm the greatest, all is well. Wonder who that was about. On a more serious level, this is my latest poem, and I made a couple of key changes thanks to the poetry group that I belong to. It's called My Second Grade Friend. Ebony lived above candy and comics in Roslyn. She and her parents and 3 younger brothers. I lived not far away with my mom and dad in Roslyn Greens in a house with 10 white pillars. She could go downstairs every day and take whatever candy or comics she wanted, and she could sleep wherever she chose, even in the hall where she'd see traffic lights swing in the wind, hear night music wing across the highway. I had to sleep in my room and never saw anything but dark trees between my lace curtains, pulled back, white. When we had an interesting discussion in the poetry group, someone suggested it should be dark trees beyond my curtains. I thought about that a lot, and I thought about beyond is scientifically accurate, that the dark trees were beyond the light curtains, but between gives you the point of view of the speaker. So I think the dark trees between the curtains are the way that the speaker is seeing them. The dark trees beyond the curtains are suggesting the facts of the situation, the spacing. This is another, it's a little bit hard to read. It's very hard to write. I've written, I don't know, 4 paradels, and everybody that I have associated with poetically knows I talk about this often. The paradel was a poem invented by Billy Collins, and he claimed it was an ancient troubadour form. And he wrote an essay about discovering this form, and then he used it to make fun of difficult forms. And at the end of his paradel, he had a lot of gibberish words and was trying to indicate that you couldn't actually write a poem in this difficult a form. It's basically you take a line, repeat the line, and I always make it harder by changing something about it so it's a different emphasis. And then at the end of each 6-line stanza, you take the 2 lines and scramble the words and use the same words, no more and no fewer. And then when you get to the end, you use all the words you've used before and scramble them. So it's, you need a computer to do this because you have to mark out every the, in, and, but, and make sure you don't have more or fewer. And if you're able to do it, it comes out, I think, a lot more strongly than it might if you didn't have the form to push it. And this is called Dying in the Hospital. You lie mute and don't manage to look at me. You look at me and don't manage to lie mute. You try to disappear like a stone in the lake outside. Like a stone in the lake outside, you try to disappear. You lie mute and manage to look at the lake outside. You don't try to disappear in me like a stone. I am sure of nothing in this place, and feelings of love don't belong. Feelings of love don't belong in this place, and I am sure of nothing. Since I know nothing at all, it's best not to speak of love to me. It's best not to speak at all to me, since I know nothing of love. Since I know feelings of love don't belong in this place, and I am sure of nothing, nothing at all, it's best not to speak of love to me. Nothing means anything to me now. We are a bell without sound. We are a bell without sound now. Nothing means anything to me. I'm sorry you're dying. If only I could tell you. If only I could tell you I'm sorry you're dying. Nothing means anything. I'm only sorry you're dying without me. If I could tell you we are a bell to sound now. You try to sound like a bell and tell me to look at the lake outside. I don't. Since I know feelings of love don't belong to me and am sure of nothing in this place, nothing at all, it's best not to speak now. You lie mute. Nothing means anything without you. If only I could manage to disappear. You're a stone of love in me. I'm sorry we are dying.
My.
Okay. On a different, I discovered that almost all the poems I'm writing these days, well, having the name Coffin and having started at an early age, Lynn Coffin, most people thought Lynn Coffin was a man. And then Coffin, so it's not the cough that carries you off, it's the coffin they carry you off in, was the first poem I probably ever heard. Anyway, this is a guzzle where I took a little liberty because you're supposed to have as Mary Ellen pointed out, you're supposed to have the same last word on each of the first two lines, but I didn't do that. But on the other hand, I rhymed it, which is makes it a little bit harder and to me more interesting. And this is called the Guzzle. That's Ghazal. That is family. And the epigraph is, the family is one of nature's masterpieces. And that's by George Santayana. One of my forebears shamed her fiance by taking a knife and killing a young whale stranded on the beach. She belonged to a clan of Quakers who rejected music and kept tender feelings at stiff arm's reach. A group of seagoing rowdies quick to rebel, proud, fond of strong beer and seditious speech. If not at sea, they busied themselves making babies, believed in public schooling, but were hard to teach. I hope when I'm coffined in my coffin forebears will tearfully sing my processional, each to each. And one thing might be interesting to you about the creation of this poem, for me, different poems come different ways. This one came from the phrase each to each. And I thought it was common or that there were other quotes, but as far as I can tell, the only time it's used, everybody recognizes it, but it comes from the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, the mermaids singing each to each. I couldn't find any other literary examples of it, but so this whole poem was written to come to the last phrase of each to each. Okay, then I'm going to read one more. This is a really old poem, but it came to me full blown on the morning that I found out that my mother had died. And I felt like I was going to write a poem, and I went and sat at the computer, the typewriter at that point, and it just kind of wrote itself. And I felt that my mother really wrote this poem. And so I'm free to like it more than I am to like other poems of mine. And it's called The Music Box. And people have used it at funerals and celebrations and weddings, and makes me very happy about it. But it's the music box in memory of Susan Sims' coffin. There was once a magic music box. You didn't have to wind it or open its lid. If you so much as looked at it or in its direction, it would begin to play. The song was short and rather simple, but mysterious too, because it had never been written down and never could be. And the song you heard was different from the song your friend or neighbor heard, even if they were standing next to you in the same room, listening. Because the box was so clearly magical, the melody so beautiful, it seemed destined to last forever. And then one day, the box began to disintegrate. The sandalwood went first, crumbling to a powder, an ash, a fine gray nothing. Then the brasswork started to lose its distinction. The pieces curled back and lost each other in themselves, in the kind of melting that is cool to the touch. Finally, the box was gone. Only the mechanism remained, and everyone marveled, because still, if you so much as looked at it or in its direction, it would start to play. The song was short and rather simple, but mysterious too, because it had never been written down and never would be. And the song you heard was different from the song your child or parent heard, even if they were standing next to you in the same room, listening. And then one day, the mechanism itself slowly disappeared, crumbling to an ash, a powder, a fine gray nothing. And it was really only then, tomorrow, yesterday, today, that the true gift was finally revealed. For anyone having known that music had only to look where the box had been or remember it in his heart of hearts. And he heard the melody again, more clearly than before. Brothers and sisters, listen and say if this is not so. The song we hear is short and rather simple, but mysterious too, because it has never been written down and never will be. We are listening now and forever, and the song we hear is the same. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Lynn, very much. And thank you, Marjorie, for creating this space, very intimate space I continue to experience. You pinned.
Okay, this poem, I just wrote it just before we came on here, and there was some kind of urgency to write it. First, I've explained that Theodore Rettke was a poet who taught at University of Washington. My professor, Nelson Bentley, was a good friend of his. A friend of mine who's a psychiatrist went to Rettke's party one time, and he asked what's his profession. My friend, he's a psychiatrist, and Ricky was bipolar, so he called my friend a shithead. So anyway, and the other thing is there's a card game named called Bridge. I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with the game Bridge, and your partner bid the place you want to take the contract to as to how many tricks you can take. In the language you use, like one pass, one club, one diamond, one heart, one spade, one no trump. It keeps escalating to 7 no trump. That's the highest bid you can make. Because remember that 7 no trump is the highest bid you can make. So, this poem is called Name Calling. Calling something by name might not be all there's to it. It is moronic to assume that the name is all there's to it, that it is proper and without insidious intent. To avoid confusion, Confucius said that the first step to knowledge is calling things by the correct names. And what about something that has more than one name, like the evening star and the morning star, when both names refer to the same heavenly object, which is not a star, but the planet Venus? In Theodore Rettke, who was a better poet than I ever will be, called my friend the psychiatrist a shithead. Obscene language is best handled by poets who are so subtle that, like antimatter, escape detection. I swear that this poem is neither obscene or subtle, but just is. I don't know how this came in. The Spanish flu that had killed 50 million people did not originate in Spain. The Wuhan virus, as it's called, or the China virus, did originate in China, as far as I know, but it did not evolve from a lab. In the card game Bridge, the highest hand you can hold is 7 no trump. The buck stops here. Thank you.
Okay. This one's called Spring
Thank you.
Approaching. 4 geese and 2 robins sharing green field. Soon, 100 geese, several robins, varied thrush, sparrows and such, will share same field, pairing then. Oh yes, and of course, the ever unison flight of the starlings, taking our breath with their sudden and perfect choreography of many are one, punctuating every moment of seeing them. Here's another birdie one. Morning hallelujah. Morning sparrow singing chased away my sorrow once again. I am that I am singing once again with him. Hallelujah. I love to sing with the birds. One thing, my own soul's knowing knows one thing that matters here. One, only one, love. It all goes from there. Very well.
Oh, there's someone from university must.
As moon do I. As does the moon shine bright at the sight of her beloved sun, I too glow as firefly long into the night in your light. And so this is the last one, and it's pretty short. It takes a lot of time to be here now, and now, and now, and Okay.
Okay, you're on.
Okay, I thought I'd read one poem from the Chrysanthemum anthology. Years before her death, through fields bright with dust and Canadian thistle, we rode our horses to the creek. On the back of the farm, ancient alders and hemlock fir stood like caryatids holding up the sky. The horses waded to their bellies, plunging their noses where the pull of the creek was greatest. I looped my stirrups over the saddle horn to keep them dry. My cousin unfastened her hair, cupped a hand to the dark mirroring water, and lifted it to her lips. This is the dream of my childhood. All night I have reined my bay horse back to that still place. All night I have watched her reflection waver and beckon. And this is a new poem. So I won't talk because I will just do the pre-poem apology if I do. Sorting the sacred from the profane, April 2020. I woke this morning thinking of the ruined abbey in Fennock, Ireland, 15th century, though built on the rubble of a monastery from the 600s, a cemetery, a stone wall, fuchsia and hawthorn, horses grazing in a field. Once monks walked there. Once they wrote the old book of Fennock, and St. Cailan turned druids into stone. The book is lost, though druids still brood over the thin soil of the graves in County Leitrim. Today, cloistered, solitary, a world away, I write through the mornings and walk in the afternoons. Towhees and black-capped chickadees hop through blossoms, while across town in the homeless camp, one tent comes down and another goes up. A cardboard box, flattened, is propped against the rain. If you're buried in the graveyard at Fennock, you go straight to heaven. Each day has to be built on the last. Each day you must choose what to carry forward. So people keep saying, but I hesitate, slumping against the wall of it, rattling the day's headlines like pennies in a cup. Thank you for listening.
Got your pen? You're up, Libby. Thank you.
All right, that's
Bye,
kind of
everybody.
what I'm going
I
to
gotta
read,
go.
though. So I think that the one good thing about the COVID plague is that I'm on the coast of Oregon and I can come to this region. So I'm going to read something. I did a series of abject body poems, and this one is going to be sort of gross and funny, mostly gross. It's called
Oh, what?
Smell. I do not know what I smell like, but I guess I smell like a dog who played fetch in the lake 2 days ago. I guess I smell like porcelain in a public toilet, just clean, but you never can really get it clean. I guess I smell like unwashed hair. I guess I smell like the breath of someone who drank too much and passed out just before dawn, much to the neighborhood's relief. Smell like dish left in the sink. I guess I smell like that soy sauce plus spaghetti plus stale sweat smell of every hallway and every building of studio apartments that have seen better days, as have the tenants. I hope I smell like old ink caked onto a typewriter ribbon that hasn't been typed on since 1971. I hope I smell like a 1983 photo development darkroom, not recently enough in use. But I guess I smell like the pile of dirty clothes stacked next to a washing machine that has been out of order for 6 months. I guess I smell like that concoction the Chinese medicine herbalist expects you to boil up and actually consume twice a day. I guess I smell like the cat box you left without scooping one day too long. I guess I smell like the head of the lady sitting in front of you at the theater who had a perm 2 days ago. I guess I smell like that dress you wore dancing all night at a crowded, smoky party last year and just hung it up without washing at all. I guess I smell like skunkweed roaches saved in a matchbox. I guess I smell like a cheap cigar stubbed out in beer and left overnight. I guess I smell like coagulated Velveeta. I guess I smell like the process of decay appropriate to my vintage.
Would you read that last line again?
I guess I smell like the process of decay appropriate to a person of my vintage.
This first poem is one I wrote a few years back after my partner and I visited Prince Edward Island. Prince Edward Island is a Canadian island, and it's just near Nova Scotia, if you haven't heard of it. And we met a skipper of a fishing boat there, and he had a small museum, and he walked us through it, and he inspired me to write a poem. It's called All One Man Knows. The skipper steps inside the swinging doors, opens the museum of his mind, where he lives through the Yankee gale of 1851 to this day. A tale of a nor'easter off the Maritimes, 200 bodies washed ashore, faces not to see, only their boots laced on, too many buried in churchyards. A few local captains under sail that day could tell signs of the gale coming on in time enough to bring about and head for shore, to harbor all they knew. A vessel for their lore when he was 6, the skip learned to weave string nets for lobster traps, his fingers blistered with the work. He ties those knots still in his sleep. The gulf's in his blood. He knows the sand spit at the harbor's mouth where he could go aground. He runs the family fleet, handed down 160 years. Their cod fisheries have come and gone. Boats mothballed now, all hands lost. They troll for tuna one by one, with rod and reel, strapped to the boat against 800 pounds of mythic fight. But their countries trapped in nets laid down for miles and miles by phantom trawlers, beyond seeing off the coast, which leaves the skip free to bet on his catch, on how well he reads the winds and tides, the strength of his oak timbered keel that can last beyond 20 years, the wheel and throttle in his hands as he turns toward feeding grounds he knows and says, "We'll see," to the unsuspecting fish.
I like it.
I have another short one, and this poem came from a dear old tabby cat whose name was Malky, and we lost her about a year and a half ago, I guess. From Malky. Late at night in bed, at her request, I hold my old tabby's paw under the tips of my fingers and my thumb. The back of my hand nestles against her chest. In spite of the tumor pressing against the corner of her eye and cheek, she purrs, a nearly silent hum rolling through her into me. Something still wild in her of the dom, who can scare the boy cats when she wants, won't let me pull away. She puts her other front paw on my hand and holds me with the prick of her claws till I give in, let my breath escape to rest with her in the cool night air, till I am coaxed into a sleepier, better self, who trusts these words will return, who puts away dark corners of the room, lets go the clutch of time. Thanks.
And you're on.
Thank you. My name is Donald Bacon, and I'm at University House and Friendship with Lynn. I'm going to read this poem tonight out of respect for Lynn, one poem. My career was as a university teacher of English and American literature. This poem takes place at a ranch that my wife's family owned in West Marin, California, right above Tamales Bay. And in the house is my wife, but our two young children. The poem is called Fledgling. Just above the house's paneled red front door, a barn swallow has plastered her nest to the galvanized hood of the entryway light. Stucco spittle wads of mud, wattle twigs, a woven feather net, white excrement gobs, glue and caulk the rampart of nest to the wall. It takes visceral design and angelic dispensation to install this brood, doesn't it? At least for tonight, I can still watch the brink of over-brimming swallow nest disgorging the eyes and beaks of 4 fledgling chicks, perched, about to fly. Sable throats, russet crowns, white cheek bands, camouflage, trying to absorb them back into the blindfold mud nest. They stare at me with frozen jewel eyes, onyx black beads, blazing pinpoints of light. They fixate me with their hypnotic instinct to survive. Their unblinking point-blank stare goes on and on until it bores through me and blots me out. Such utterly alive, surreal stillness. I'm about to lose or try to keep too long these fledgling chicks, so passionate to leap out into their first precipitating risk of flight at dawn. Such equipoise, ambivalence. I can't decide. Let go. It's time to go inside the house and renew my lifetime's second chance, and perhaps resolve in words this furious second sight. I seem to hold the luck of swallow flight. That's it.
Okay, you're on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
This is a poem I wrote for my father a year after losing him. And since next week is the 6th anniversary, I'm like to read this piece. I don't know if you could call it a poem or not. Miles of melodies. With every particle of yours, with teardrops, I'm loosening the soil, longing to resurrect your cold flesh, mine. Dad, I wish to rest on this earth forever, beside our 25-year-old reminiscences, to wipe away the fate not belong to us. I, the offspring of God, Mom, you, cannot bear your magnificent essay in this wounded time. I, myself, am pregnant with humanity's loss. Silence calls my life. That's it. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You're a poet.
Invaluable, and some
Thank
people can
you.
figure this out. But now that you could see it, and you could see me at the same time, kind of probably over in a little, what are they called?
Yes.
Time and space as canvas, our lives as art. A simple and profound and easily dismissible truth. Memory is gallery beyond time and space. Come walk the rooms with me. Take your time. Remember when we were, remember when we weren't, remember the feel of it. Tell me now while we still can. Tell me now while I am still listening. So that's something that we could do if we could kind of figure out the technology of it, particularly if we're having audio problems. But now I didn't really experience audio. So we are done with the poetry part of it. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
This has been the biggest community mic we've had, and the
Oh.
diversity and boys, I loved everything about it. I mean, it was great. I mean, I kind of felt like old times a little bit, you know, where we had so many people on, we couldn't get everybody in, you know, so that was really great. So this point, you know, I want to say goodbye, or if you want to chat, like what was this evening like for you? Any comments that you have to make, any perspective, you know?
Could I say hello to a new person who just came on? Lorraine Nussbaum came on. Welcome.
Hi, Laureen.
Hi. I heard
Oh.
all of you.
That's Laureen?
Hi, Lorraine.
Yeah, it says my
No,
son's
no.
name, but I'm Loreen.
Hello.
Yeah.
I'm going to change my name to something different too, I think.
I wonder if Fran is here. Fran, are you here? Because
We came on late
I
because
don't see you. I just see a stick or something.
Yeah.
Well, that actually is Fran. You probably haven't seen her recently, man.
There she's coming. Oh, there she is.
there. We were here. We just came in late and didn't want to say anything. It was fun. It was fun.
Can you put it down a little bit?
What is it? You don't like to see the stairs?
There.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Well, hi. I want to say,
Wait.
Lydia and Blue, right? What is that thing behind you? I noticed that when I listen to politicians, they always have bookshelves behind them because they want to show you how well read they are. But I think mostly on this Zoom with poets, you guys have artwork. What is that thing behind? It's gorgeous.
Oh, this red and the pink and red.
That pole thing. It's
Like a provider.
like
Well, it kind of looks like a screen, and then has.
What are you talking? I think you're talking about the
Good
purple.
night. I have to go.
There.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, Fran.
Thank you. Bye.
I'm
Bye.
going to go too.
Bye-bye.
I really do thank you all very much.
Okay.
Much respect.
And I just want to say it's been so good to be here with all of you. This is Jill talking. Because I don't live in West Seattle anymore, and I'm really bummed out about the bridge. I'm over in Ballard now. So you know, it's nice we can do this. Anyway, so hi everybody, and I'm glad to see you.
Yeah, we live in Oregon, so I know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's where I moved back up here from, on the
Oh.
Oregon coast. Yeah,
We're on the coast.
we're on the coast.
Yeah, we're in
Where?
Wheeler.
Oh,
Wheeler.
Wheeler! I love that place. Oh,
so
I
you
loved
guys-
it. I always went through there on the way up here. Yeah,
Yeah, surprised anybody else has heard of it.
art there and everything. Yeah.
I didn't
was-
realize you moved to Oregon.
Yeah,
Yeah. In June it'll be a year.
yeah.
Wow.
We
Great.
broke up with Seattle.
You what?
We broke up with Seattle.
Broke up.
I returned to Seattle
Who,
3 years ago.
who was left behind?
Mhm.
Apparently Seattle.
Yeah. Seattle got left behind. I mean,
Yeah.
we
Seattle-
miss
Go ahead.
the poetry and the dance and the music. We miss all the art stuff. I mean, there's art community here that we're getting involved in, but we miss the people.
Yeah.
Just the city was no longer our city anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool that we can do this, that there's like Zoom readings that we can do.
Mm.
Yeah, this is pretty.
That's a gift.
It's really nice to
whole
see you. It's
thing.
been a long time.
Lydia, I sent you on Messenger through Facebook an invitation to be a featured reader. I don't know if you got it.
I rarely look at Messenger. But I would love to do that.
Okay. Your email still works, I assume. Yeah.
Yes. Propaganda Ministry.
I just want to say, I don't know why I'm saying this to you folks, because you don't know this person I'm talking about, but today about 3 p.m., I got 4 words that devastated me. And it was unexpectedly passed away Monday.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, May 6th. And I just felt like I needed to express myself through a poem, which I do oftentimes, but I couldn't do it now. I don't know when I'll be able to do it, but I've just been, I'm glad that this thing happened tonight. I've been trying to both experience a deep sense of loss with a man that I truly love. There are a lot of men that I know that I feel friendly with, or I just, like, but there are a handful of men that I love, just because we've been able to be honest with each other, and to have him just leave unexpectedly. I'm still in a state of shock, but I noticed immediately after sobbing uncontrollably for quite a while at my desk, I got on and I started scheduling future Zooms. And I was I was surprised at myself. And then I thought, no, I needed to do that. So tonight was a night that was really good for me, really good to just be with people who care deeply about things that sometimes remain invisible, but through this poetry and this sharing, our light is shone or was shined on them. And so thank you all
You're welcome.
in a personal way.
I'm sorry.
Was this a person we may any
None of you know this person. I went to, it was one of those things that fortunately, what I liken to, because I see a lot of war movies, having not been in the military and have avoided, participating in any wars, is in every way that I possibly could in my life. He was somebody that I think I feel that kind of connection, but it was in very peaceful circumstances. We went to a master's level program in which it was about self and society and relationships. And the 6 of us went through together in a group of 30 people. We were the only men. And so for some reason, we just bonded. We're as different as all get out. I mean, politically, and still to this day. I mean, there's one person in it who actually, I think, votes for Trump and will again, just to give you an idea. But yeah, I mean, I don't have anybody in my life like that. But it's when you get that kind of diversity, making close connections. It's very special.
That's great. Great.
I want to say, Leopold, you look like the Grand Wizard with your back.
You really do.
That's much better than other things I've been accused of.
Well, I'm gonna go. Good night.
All
Thank
right.
you, Leopoldo. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We've got a couple of great people next week. I'll send out an email notice on that. We've got people lined up now through June, into June. So it's very, very promising.
Thanks for doing this, Leopold.
Yeah, you're all welcome.
Thanks much for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yay, Leopold.